Welcome to The Third Chair, a show about real people, real stories, real life. And here are your hosts for The Third Chair, Peter Grigg and Doug Bazeski.
So, Doug, continuing our tradition of strong, powerful woman, we really are having a strong, powerful woman on tonight.
Oh, good. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be a three-parter.
Three-parter? Wow.
Well, actually, it's going to be a two-parter. We're going to have this guest on for a couple of shows. And when I say strong, powerful woman, I mean she does jujitsu, she punches, she kicks, she terrorizes grown men at her job.
Can she terrorize you?
She terrorizes me on a regular basis, where I literally run out screaming in pain.
Is she your daughter?
No, she could be. That's right. My daughter Rebecca likes to choke me out as well when we do jiu-jitsu. But no, our guest tonight is a local visual artist, recently completing a BA in Visual Arts at the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs. And she completed an Associate's in Art Studies at Pikes Peak Community College, which is also in Colorado Springs. She's a local personal trainer, yoga instructor, and part-time mermaid.
She's a mermaid?
At the Denver Aquarium, yes. Please
Wow.
welcome Julia Hilleary. Well, welcome, Julia.
Thank you.
Julia Hilleary, it is great to have you here.
Thank you.
So, you're an artist. I bet you were drawing as a child. Tell me about that.
Oh yeah, I've been drawing since I was, I think, 2, because I remember I had like those weird round crayons, and I kind of like did those for a little bit, and I remember watching my dad draw something and being like, and I just grabbed his like, not crayon, what is it called? Pencil, and started drawing with that. And I remember when I was 2, I showed a picture to my dad, and he was like, honey, come look at this. Your daughter drew eyelashes on a girl to distinguish the fact that she was a girl. And I was like, that's a weird thing? And like, I watched cartoons. Yeah.
That's impressive. No crayons on the wall or lipstick on the wall?
No, I was always very much a color within the lines sort of girl. Like, I wanted to put it all on the paper, because if it was anywhere else, it wasn't on the paper, and it wasn't making everything pretty. Unless I had like an immaculate, well, I have an old immaculate mom who loves to keep things like super clean. So if I drew on the wall, she probably would have been like, go sit in your room, no more any of these for a week.
All right. So, comic books. Do you have a favorite comic book?
You know, I really like Calvin and Hobbes. Like,
Calvin and Hobbes.
I think that's part of the thing that inspired me to want to be an artist, because I went home the other day to my parents' house and I was looking around and I'm like, oh, there's this Calvin and Hobbes book and this one, and here's the one that I tore when I was 6 years old because I was trying to read a page and I couldn't open it because it was sticky, because my brother used to read them too and he spilled like, I don't know, juice on it or something. And I remembered that most of these things we got because I was obsessed with Calvin and Hobbes, and I was like, I didn't understand them because they're very philosophical, but I was like, haha, that kid's funny. He does bad things.
Yeah, boy. No, nature or nurture? Are artists made or born? It seems like you didn't have a lot of time to be made if you're drawing it too.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. Because I'm like, I know some people who I would consider artists. I think it's half and half, really. Because I know some people who are artists that didn't start until like, my best friend Kelly, like, she didn't start drawing and stuff until she met me in 7th grade, and she was like, oh my gosh, I love that you're drawing. Can you teach me how to draw? And now she does amazing things too. And I didn't really teach her. I was just sort of like, this is the kind of stuff I draw. And then she went and taught herself too. And then there's me that's just been drawing ever since I could hold a pencil.
Now, you know, sometimes parents, oh, I want my daughter to grow up and be the president or a doctor or a lawyer. When you told your parents that you were going to be an artist, what did they say? Were they supportive?
Oh, incredibly, yeah. Because the fact that I could draw really well when I was like 2, like, my cousin used to draw like the circle with legs and a smiley face, and she's like, that's a person, and I was always like, no, it's not, we're the same age. So my dad was always like, no, if anyone's gonna be the artist in the family, it's gonna be you, and like I want to support that. And he'd take me to like galleries and stuff and show me. He'd even take me when people were actually working on stuff and just leave me there to watch them, and like him and my mom would go shopping, and I'd just be sitting there watching some very uncomfortable artist being like, I guess I'm babysitting your daughter now. And I'm just sitting there quietly like, I like the
Get the
brush
Christmas
strokes.
shopping done, right?
Yeah. And I'm just like, very beautiful brush strokes. I like your vignette on that.
So you never considered becoming like a government auditor for the army or anything like
No.
that? It is a fine job.
I considered being a personal trainer, and I did that. So
Oh, yes.
I
and
considered
you're
being a
still doing
mermaid, I did
yeah.
that. So I'm like, gotta be an artist too.
Okay. High school. What kind of artsy stuff did you do?
You know, I mostly just did my own thing. I would like doodle on the sides of all of my tests and papers and everything, and I did one art class in high school.
One art class.
Yeah, and that was my senior year when I finally decided, I guess I'll do something artistic other than just doodling in my notebooks. But I did band.
Band.
Yeah, I was in marching band, and I was the first chair flutist in the chamber winds, which was our top band. Most schools called it like symphonic band or something. Or
So you were the first chair.
yeah.
The big dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was first chair clarinet, just high school
you
as
know.
well. Yeah. So what about acting? Did you do some acting?
I did. I did drama. I did one semester of theater productions, which is the top drama class that did put on all the plays and stuff. And I did 3 musicals. I did Fiddler on the Roof as an extra, and do you remember which the one with the... No, you weren't in there. You already graduated. It was one that was like Princess and the Pea or something, and there was like this French maid who couldn't speak English, and I was like, yeah, I'll go. I only have one line, and then of course I had to sing in English, which was really weird.
Oh, man.
And then the third one I did, I
Singing
actually...
English was weird.
Well, like to pretend like I can't speak English, and then suddenly like burst out into English song. Everybody's like,
Oh, the music is a
Normal.
different universe than the...
Yeah,
rest.
exactly.
Yeah. I talked with your parents. They said in high school there was a little drama.
But the third musical I did, I played in the pit orchestra. So
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The pit orchestra. That is so cool. Now, I understand. I've seen a picture of you, I think, with either purple hair or green hair in your marching band uniform. Was that the only color hair you had in high school?
I didn't dye my hair green. I'd gone swimming that summer a lot, and it turned green from the chlorine.
Oh, wow. That was impressive.
Yeah.
That was
Is that when you
really...
decided to become a mermaid?
No, I decided to become a mermaid when I was like 5.
Oh, so because you like the pool and swimming? And
Yeah, I was like, my dad, I think, when he taught me how to swim, like he taught me and my brother at the same time. My brother's like a year older than me. He's 2.5 years older than me. But he dropped us both in the water with our floaties. And I came back 2 minutes later and took my floaties off and said, I don't need these. And I just swam away.
Wow.
And
That's
I was
impressive.
like, I think I was 3.
Man.
My mom was like, you had so much attitude about it. And I was like, I don't need these. And then I just swam around the whole pool and came back.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. Now, did you play any instrument besides a flute? Like, did you ever play, like, the tuba or...
I played the bass guitar.
The bass guitar?
Yeah, it's just like the most opposite you
man.
could get.
That
from the
is
flute.
like the most opposite you can get. Did you keep that up? Do you still play that today?
Occasionally. One of my friends borrowed my amp a while back, so I haven't had an amp until he went and got his music stuff, and he had an amp, a bass amp, and I was like, yes, I finally have a bass amp I get to play with. So now I've been like practicing a little bit, mostly when he's not home. Not because you're not home, just because I get bored.
So do you have a favorite bass guitarist? Anyone in
I
particular?
mean,
Like, my favorite bass guitarist is Geddy Lee of Rush. And just a phenomenal singer and writer and bass guitarist, considered one of the best. I don't know if you have one in particular.
I would say Mikey Way, but it's not because he plays the bass guitar. It's just because he was a member of My Chemical Romance, and I was...
My Chemical
Yeah,
Romance.
I was
Oh.
obsessed, and I was like, he's the bassist, and he's hot. Or at least he was.
What was the song? March of the
Or
something parade?
Welcome to the Black Parade.
Welcome to the Black Parade. I remember playing that in the operating room a few times when I was working, and people looked at me very strange. And
You wouldn't want to play that whole album. It has a lot to do with surgery and death.
yeah. One of the rules I had, I never played Stairway to Heaven or Highway to Hell in the operating room because didn't want people to.
How about that out of
have
hell?
ideas.
Yeah. Those drugs affect your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're talking about high school. Did you have anything like cliques or dress up or anything special in high school?
We didn't really have cliques. I mean, my friends and I were... I guess there were cliques. I just wasn't really part of them. My friends and I were sort of the march to the beat of your own drum sort of people. We never really listened to other people. Like, there were kids that tried to fight with me, and I was just like, I don't know who you are, and we'd just sort of brush them off and be like, no, I'm not interested, and then they'd leave us alone. So I was like, yeah, nobody really cared. I dressed a little goth sometimes.
A little goth.
Yeah.
So how come you dressed goth?
Mostly because I felt like my parents didn't want me to.
Oh, okay.
So it was sort of a, you know what, I'm going to be cool and go to school dressed like this. Because my mom can't tell me no if I do my makeup in the bathroom.
So you run to school and then you go to the bathroom and do your makeup?
I did that in 2nd grade too, then I think about it. I would bring extra clothes to school because my mom was like, you look so pretty. And I'm like, cool, I'm going to bring a black t-shirt to school and go change in the bathroom. Yeah.
So were you at all into the gothic subculture?
A little bit. I mean, back when Hot Topic was all like trip pants and chains and stuff, I used to try to get in there as often as possible, but then it sort of changed into like, they didn't sell that sort of thing anymore. It was all like cartoons and anime and stuff like that. So I sort of in and out. I was more of a scene kid, I think, because I would love to do like the crazy colors and stuff, and I liked the idea of being goth. I didn't like being called a scene kid, but now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I was a scene kid. I wasn't a goth kid.
After our break, we'll talk more about your art and we'll look at some of your art.
Awesome.
So.
All right, we'll be right back.
Now we're going to talk about your college days. You went and majored in art?
I did,
at
yeah.
UCCS?
Yeah,
And
like
that's
visual arts.
for people who are out of our city, that's a local college that's growing like crazy in Colorado Springs.
Yeah, it's surprising how big it is now.
You know how many students are there now?
I have no idea.
So what was the best thing about taking the art program at
I think it was just
UCCS?
Yeah, I think it was just like meeting other artists and like seeing, like knowing how to take my stuff more professional instead of just being like, well, I like to paint in my bedroom sometimes and then I stack it in the closet and never do anything with it. And now I know people who I can ask like, hey, you're doing a gallery opening soon. Can I like join? Maybe show some of my stuff? And it's nice to have like a community of other people to talk to, like, hey, what does this mean to you, and have them critique my work. And let me tell you, sometimes college kids do not know how to take critiques well.
No.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They take it as an attack rather than a, hey, I'm trying to help you improve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, some adults too.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you get advice from a personal trainer. It can be sort of feel that way too. What do you mean I need to eat less?
So do you keep in contact with a lot of these people that you went to college with?
Mostly through Facebook. Like, sometimes I'll just see what they're doing and I'll comment and be like, congrats, that's so cool. And since I only recently graduated and stuff has happened since then, I haven't been able to do any of that stuff because nobody's been opening galleries and everything. But like, we're all talking about like once everything is calmed down, then we're gonna go do like, because we didn't get to do our senior show even.
Oh, that's...
Yeah, we get to do our senior talks over Zoom, but we didn't get to do our actual show. So we're like, hopefully when this is all over, we'll all meet up again and do our senior show, like in an actual gallery.
That would be fun.
So cool.
Yeah.
Of course, in the age of the internet, there's no reason why you can't have a cool page with your work being shown.
Exactly. That's why I do have my website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll get that information up for the viewers at the end of the show.
Awesome. Nice.
So what was the hardest thing about going to college?
Well, starting out, I was definitely one of those kids that did not like being critiqued. Mostly because I didn't understand. Like, I had one teacher in particular. I'm totally going to single you out, Corey, if you're listening to this, which I doubt you are, but totally going to single you out. But, like, he did, like, I know he meant well, and he was, like, trying to be nice about it, but he came across as very much, like, you don't know what you're doing. You need to try harder, and I just didn't understand what he was trying to tell me. So I got, like, really mad at him a couple times, and I would, like, leave his classroom in tears and, like, trying to act like I know what I'm doing. I'm not a bad artist. But really, like, what he was actually trying to tell me was, like, you can go further than this. You can connect these things better. But it came out as, like, you don't know what you're doing. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm trying. So there were some hard times, but, like, after, I think, 2 semesters, I went back to one of his classes, and I'm like, oh, now I get it. Okay. I see what you're trying to tell me. And there were other students that had the same complaints. They're like, Corey goes too hard. I don't understand what he's trying to tell me to do. And I'm like, now I get it. Just wait it out, okay? You'll understand.
I had a management teacher. I still haven't figured out what he was trying to tell me. I think about it once in a while. I still don't get it.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes that's a sensitive artist responding that way. But sometimes teachers and leaders don't explain things very well either.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of blame to go around, so to speak, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was about 50-50 in that instance. I
Yeah.
was like, I didn't get what he was trying to tell me to do, and he didn't get how to tell me. So
50-50, but it's mostly his fault.
yeah. It's like 59 or like 50.9%.
Yeah.
Mine's like 49 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Math, you know.
So you graduated this spring?
Yeah.
And so you didn't have a ceremony or anything?
No, it was all online. It was we put it on the TV and everything, and they just sort of showed our names and was like, congrats to the School of Visual Arts. And then they didn't read them off or anything. They just showed them on a screen, and I was kind of like, what?
So you had to look real fast?
Yeah. But at the same time, I wasn't going to go to graduation because I'm like, it costs extra to walk. So
it costs extra to walk?
It costs extra to walk across the stage and get the robes and everything. And I'm like, I already spent 6 years in college when I was planning on spending 4. So I don't want to spend any more money on college.
So how come it took you 6 years? Were you working?
I was working 3 jobs. And I started at PPCC. I was going full-time at PPCC. And I was only working 1 job then. I was a swim teacher. But
that's Pikes Peak Community College.
Yeah.
If you don't live in Colorado Springs.
I forget. But yeah, like I started there, and it was actually a Associate of the Arts with a French designation degree. So I took a lot of French classes.
Oui.
Yeah, so I think I took 4 French classes, and I only needed 2 when I transferred everything to UCCS. They're like, it's 100% transferable. yeah, all your classes transfer, but they don't transfer as what you need for another degree. So it's like, yeah, they technically have that, but you don't have what you need. So I was like, oh, that's great. So I have 2 extra language classes.
So you kind of had to start almost over.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, I think the only classes that really transferred were, like, obviously the ones that everybody has to take their freshman year, and then, like, one history of art class that I took online at PPCC. And they were like, well, it doesn't technically transfer over, but I'm going to be nice about it and say that it's the equivalent of this class so you don't have to take that class. And I was like, thank God. Because otherwise I would have had to stay for an extra semester, and that would have been 6.5 years, and I would not want to be there right now. Yeah.
You think, these colleges could work together and, like, because, I mean, they're expensive.
Yeah, and they're getting more expensive, but UCCS is a little greedy, I'm not going to lie. They're like, please give us your money.
They're probably not the only one.
Oh, yeah. Definitely
exactly.
not. But I prefer PPCC because they're like, hey, we know it's a community college. Everything this semester is $1,000. And I'm like, yeah, cool.
Well, tell us about your senior project, because I see some paintings here.
So my senior project is called Barotrauma. And it's actually about the work I did as a mermaid at the Denver Aquarium. Because it was sort of like the only thing on my mind for a while. I was like, this is so cool. I got the coolest job ever. I've always wanted to be a mermaid. And it's like kind of putting a myth out there. And it sort of made me like look into more stuff like, well, why is it cooler to be a mermaid than to be a person? And so it sort of made me like look more into other artists' work about like fictional creatures and looking into like, it's cool to be something better than human, right? Like, we never want to admit that, like, yeah, we're humans, we're fallible, but what if we could be cooler? We could be something more, something magical that, like, the human mind can't comprehend. And I'm like, I get to pretend to be that once a week. That's so fun.
I've always wanted to be a hobbit.
So you drive up to Denver once a week and...
Yeah. Yeah. Before the aquarium closed down, yeah, I did that. I can grab that for you. So here's...
All right, tell us about this one and hold it up to the camera.
Ugh, let me turn it around. I thought I wrote the name of it on the back. I do not remember names of my pieces.
Oh.
I think this one's called Water Damage. Yeah, that seems right. Because water damage. Yeah, that's right. This is called Water Damage. So this is actually the second piece in the whole thing. So the first one, where's the first one? I think it's behind there. The little one. Yeah. So this is the first one. This one I do know what it's called. It's called Perpetration of a Myth.
I can hold this one for you if you like.
Awesome. I have people holding my art for me. So that one's called Perpetration of a Myth. It's sort of... I love painting myself in cartoon.
So does this represent you as the mermaid in this?
Kind of. It was sort of like a romanticized version of it. Because I'm like, I know I don't look that pretty underwater. All my makeup's going everywhere. And sometimes the water's cloudy. And my hair doesn't do that like I want it to. But like, it's sort of how you feel when you're under the water. You're like, look at this. I am so cool. I am underwater. I'm doing all this cool stuff. There's literal fish swimming around me. And yeah, it's just sort of portraying an air of being something perfect, perfectly relaxed under the water. And, you know, all the kids are watching you, so you're like, yes, I'm going to make you believe in this. I'm going to put on my best performance. So it's really just about performing.
My daughter is an art student at PPCC, and she was really impressed with these works and how you were able to show the reflection of light that comes through the water. And I could see it through all of these. That was really cool.
Yeah. And I think I have very good firsthand experience of learning, because I didn't realize that I was doing that until I was thinking about it. And I'm like, it's because I've been able to see underwater so often that it's like second nature. It's like seeing things on land for me. All
right. Let's take a break and we'll come back to look at more of Julia's artwork. We'll get back to our guest in just a moment. But
do you have a story to tell?
Would you, yes you, like to be a guest on the third chair?
Send us an email and tell us about yourself and your story.
And please follow us on social media.
Now back to the episode. Okay, we're still looking at some paintings, and I really am interested in this one.
Oh yeah, this one
What is
is.
that? I thought it was Alice in Wonderland at first, but the back looks kind of scary here.
I thought it looked like The Exorcist.
Well, because of the eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the audience can see these eyes.
Let's start with that. This girl was originally supposed to have eyes. I turned this in for a class where she asked us to like upload some versions of our artwork, and I couldn't decide if I wanted to give her eyes or not in that moment. So I went on the computer and I actually added eyes digitally. But I didn't put them on the actual painting because I was like, I really can't decide if I want her to have eyes or not. Because I was like,
look like the rabbit has eyes either.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like those big black like bead eyes, but I haven't like.
Well, the painting
yet.
really is quite striking with the eyes the way they are.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I haven't been able to fill them in yet. Because I'm like, originally I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna fill them in as soon as this thing dries. Because this is one of my only oil paint pieces, so it took forever to dry. So that's why I didn't. Because I think I actually painted the eyes on originally. And then I messed up, and I was like, it's oil paint, so I had to wipe them off, and then wait for it to dry, and then paint over it with the white, and then wait for it to dry. But, yeah, everybody keeps saying, like, oh, it looks cooler, I kind of get the idea more without the eyes, and I'm like,
Her
maybe
expression
I want
is,
eyes.
get me out of here, I'm very bored.
Yeah, and that's the idea. So this painting is called Wasteland, spelled Waist, like, waist height. And the idea behind it was like being a child and sort of being dragged along to these events with your, parents and doing adult things, and you're just not interested into it, and you're in a place that's not for kids, and it's basically a wasteland for you. So they got these people over here, and they sort of morph into these trees over on the other side. And
was this based on a personal experience, like your parents taking you to somebody's work Christmas dinner or something?
No, I mean, I feel like every kid has been dragged along to stuff like this, and I just sort of wanted to make it like. I saw a couple pictures of like, you ever go through like the Google rabbit hole, and you just end up on like Victorian children ailments or something, and you're like, that's really weird, but I'm totally interested in it now. And I'd see pictures of like these Victorian children in like the most boring cocktail party places, and they just look like they're gonna die, and I'm like, I feel that because I know what that
It
feels
used to
like.
take 20 minutes to take the picture, and that might be why they
They
were gonna
the
die.
kid's just like, oh my god.
Take the picture already.
Or like even the paintings of like, like the French Revolution, pre-French Revolution aristocracy, and their kids are just like, okay, I have 1 million siblings and half of them will die, and I'm here.
Yeah.
So that was sort of like, I understand the feeling of being a kid and being like, there's nothing for me here. This is so boring. And it was sort of inspired by Alice in Wonderland. When I was in middle school, my friends and I were so obsessed with Alice in Wonderland. I have no idea where it came from. We just suddenly were, and I feel like a lot of people our age just suddenly were. And then it started showing up at Hot Topic because everybody our age was suddenly into Alice in Wonderland. And then they came out with the Johnny Depp movie, and then everybody else got in on it too. And we dressed up as like the whole Alice in Wonderland crew to school on Halloween, and we just go do weird stuff at night dressed as like rabbits, and I don't know, we were weird kids. But
Was that Alice in Wonderland? Was that with the rabbit that was I'm late for very important date?
Yeah.
No time to say hello, goodbye. I'm late.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Surprised I know that.
Yeah. I actually learned some of those songs in French when I was like really into learning French.
Oh.
Mostly because my grandparents lived in France, so I watched the French version. I'm like, oh, I'm going to learn these songs in French, and I'm going to sing them. My friends are going to think it's so cool. And it's like, looking back on it now, I'm like, I was such a dorky kid. Oh my God.
You were such a dorky
I mean,
kid.
I still am such a dorky kid, but like, look, I'm wearing a leather jacket. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Leather jacket.
This is how I make sure everyone knows I'm cool, even though I'm a dork. But yeah.
Now, just for the record, what's the difference between, say, a dork and a nerd?
A nerd doesn't know when to shut up about things, I think. A lot of my friends are nerds, and I'm like, listen, I'm really not interested in what you're talking about anymore. A dork is like interested in those things, but knows when can read a room,
That's a good definition.
Yeah.
All right, I'm
We
going to
have
grab some
more
other...
paintings. While he's getting those paintings, maybe you can tell us your philosophy of painting.
So my philosophy of painting, I never start with a plan. I just, sometimes, like that one I started with an idea, but I didn't know what it was going to look like. every teacher I've ever had has been like, you gotta draw thumbnails, you gotta like draw something small in there so you know what it's gonna look like. I'm like, if I start with a thumbnail, I will never get to the painting, because I'm like, the idea is on paper and now I do not have to go look at it again. Whereas if I start with a painting, like, I'm kind of wasteful with paint. I will buy paint and I will paint over the same canvas like 80 million times. You cannot see this, but there are so many little scratchy layers of just paint that I slapped on and then went, nah. And then I slapped on another coat and I was like, eh. And then I like scratch it up a little bit to give it some more texture and be like, that looks cool. And then change my mind later. So this is very textured. This is from a more recent series that I'm doing. This is on my website too. It's called Etheria. And the idea of it is, it's kind of going along with that same mermaid idea of like something greater than human. But the idea behind this was like sort of abandoning the human form and looking for something more angelic and more like something that messes with humanity because it's not achievable and it doesn't make sense to the mind. So I was sort of going back to like that biblical angel sort of thing where like, you know, humans stare upon them and are just filled with terror because they can't comprehend what they're seeing, and so that sort of thing, but in a more friendly, atmospheric way. Sort of.
Yeah. So not so much are you showing, if I understand what you're saying, that this part here and that part down there represents more, is that all one sort of angel form, or is that two different?
It's like where's the other two paintings? So those are,
this one?
hang on, I'm going to show these. So this one's half of it. This is actually two paintings is one painting in this case. So this is sort of the idea that I originally had. It's something that like is too perfect to be like perceived normally by the human eye. I don't know if those are lined up. They don't have to be perfectly lined up, but sort of in that vicinity.
Yeah. Okay.
I sort of put them off center on purpose because I knew it would annoy my classmates.
Ah!
They're gonna be like, "Oh, why'd you put them off center?" I'm like, "You'll never know, will you?" But yeah. So this was sort of an idea of like, there's this creature that, like, even the slightest bit of emotion from her can cause like cataclysmic events down on Earth. And this one, I actually painted this one right after my granddad died. So I had been working on the barodrama for a while, sort of coming up with that idea. And this wasn't my senior seminar class, but this was before then. It was a painting class.
Was that a time coming from a lot of really sad emotions?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that was part of sort of the darkness of this?
Yeah, and I was sort of like, I don't know, I was like so filled with despair for the first time ever, because I haven't really had family members die before, and I was sort of trying to come to grips with the idea that somebody, and I felt bad because I didn't get to know him that well, and I was sort of trying to come to grips with the fact that I had lost somebody, and seeing what that feels like, that I sort of abandoned what I had been working on before for months and months, and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't work on this anymore. I gotta move on to another idea. And this kind of came out of that. And yeah, it's a little cartoonish because I just don't like taking myself seriously. Like if I paint something super dramatic and everybody's like, it looks so cool, I'm like, but it's not me, because I like comics and stupid stuff.
Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah.
Well, I remember I had done some writing on some projects after some dark times around 2011 and 12, and even one of my oldest daughters said, "Dad, you need to start writing happier stuff." But, but it is good it's a good outlet though, because maybe if we don't do this, we go crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And I just like some of it. With the cartoonish thing, I know this is a little bit off topic, but like with the cartoonish style, I tend to like gravitate to that just because you guys know Andy Warhol, I know that. And I tend to
15 minutes of fame and the giant tomato can.
Yeah. Andy Warhol, and then there's also Takashi Murakami, who's like basically the Japanese Andy Warhol, except he's still alive and he's still relevant. And so I've always been really fascinated with the idea of the blending of high and low art. So taking stuff like comics and like anime and stuff and putting it into a more high art setting, which I know a lot of the older generations are like, well, I'm gonna brush that off, it's not necessary. But it's like, you liked Roy Lichtenstein, you gotta like this stuff too.
Yeah, I had a question about something on your website about you liked English neoclassical, postmodern painting, and Japanese ukiyo-e style.
Ukiyo-e, yeah.
Ukiyo-e.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, how would you...
Yippee-yi-yo.
Yippee-yi-yay!
He's Japanese, so he's just over here cringing.
Yeah, no disrespect. Yeah. Have any of the paintings we've shown tonight have an example of the Japanese kind of...
Kind of. So ukiyo-e means floating world, basically, and it was sort of the style that these... I don't know if that's exactly the translation.
No, that sounds right.
Yeah, okay, you were just thinking about it. His Japanese is okay, but he is Japanese, which is hilarious.
Well, I know his Japanese is better than mine.
Yeah. Mine too. Yeah. No, I try.
With that thought, we're going to take a brief break, and then we'll be right back.
Okay.
Quantum Leap Recovery is the podcast of Pikes Peak Recovery Coaching. The podcast is researched, narrated, and facilitated by me, Dr. Peter Gregg, a licensed physician in long-term recovery and recovery coach. I will interview guests, but also bring to your attention the latest medical findings and advances. I want to connect with others and get input from the listeners. Insights and topic requests will be shared and acted upon. So why the name Quantum Leap Recovery? What's a quantum leap? Well, the Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines it as an abrupt change, sudden increase, or dramatic advance. For example, the experimental medication proved to be a quantum leap forward in treating cancer. Recovery can occur as regular baby steps and or at times by quantum leaps. We are going to talk about the many roads, pathways, and timetables to recovery. A personal quantum leap sometimes occurs when we find an unfamiliar approach to our problem. So, join us on our podcast and support us on Red Circle. Welcome back. We're here with Julia Hilleary, and I have a question for Julia. The painting we just saw of the child whose eyes were not finished, it made me wonder, how do you know when a painting is done?
I never know when my paintings are done. I just know when I'm bored of working on them.
Oh.
When I feel like I have said everything I need to say. I've done a lot of my paintings. I like to do outlines, so most of the time, like, if I've finished all the colors and I've done all the outlines, I'll be like, that's done. And then I might look back and be like, oh, there's a part. You know, it's really hard to know when a painting is done. I never really know. I'll call it done, but I'll still be like, yeah, but I could have done that. Could have done that. And I think that's the struggle of being an artist, is never really knowing when you've said what you need to say, or if saying anything else is important, or if you've already gotten it across, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I also have seen artists that have trouble finishing a project, and sometimes it seems to me that it's also as much almost a fear. Well, they'll say they want it perfect, and that it's perfectionism, but I think a lot of times it boils down more to a fear of rejection. Like, now it's done and I have to put it out there as finished, and now people may critique it, including insensitive college kids. And so, you know, so I often wonder the struggle to finish, how much of it is not being sure or not whether you've really said everything you wanted to say, or if it's a little bit more, I just don't want to be critiqued.
Sometimes I feel like I don't really care what people say about my art anymore. I've gotten to the point where I'm like, well, if you say something bad about it, I'll take that into mind and I'll see if I agree or not. But if I don't agree, I'm not going to be like, well, you're wrong. I'm just going to be like, cool opinion.
That's wise. That's smart.
Yeah.
Or Orson Welles, one of the greatest movie directors of all time, made a movie and filmed it, and he spent 10 years cutting it, and he never got it done. And that was the last project he worked on in his life.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was just 10 years, and someone who had all his accomplishments, he couldn't finish that picture.
Sure. I mean, I think there are times when you really, for whatever reason, can't. Because I do some life coaching, I'm always curious why people can't finish things to get them out there. And I know the other Doug and I have talked about that. We've written a lot of scripts, sent them to Hollywood. We've put stuff out there, and you have to get past the idea that sometimes people will critique what you've done.
Yeah.
And just not care, or just delete them from your phone. Take
Yeah.
them right off of, defriend them on Facebook or whatever you call it. Yeah.
See, sometimes when I drag my feet with a painting, it's not so much because I'm worried about what people will think about it. It's because I'm like, oh gosh, when I finish this, I told people that I was gonna sell it, so I'd have to I'd have to choose a price for it, which is really hard to do, and then take it to this place and make sure it gets approved. And I'm like, if they don't approve me, that's fine, but it's like, I have to go find another place that'll approve it then, and that's so much work. I'm a little lazy when it comes to that. And I for a while I had my stuff up on Etsy, but then I was like, nobody's gonna buy it because it costs so much, and it's a fair price for it, but people don't see, I'm not going to go buy a canvas full of wall art, even if it costs that much to make it. People would rather just go buy a print for $12, so I'm like.
So how do you decide on a painting? Because I never figured it out.
How to what?
How you decide on a painting price.
Oh my gosh, some people are like, oh, you should just go by the cost of the materials and then pay yourself an hourly rate. For how long you worked on it, and I'm like, so you want me to sit here with a timer and just go I'm working on it, I'm done. But what about all the time it took me to come up with this idea? What about the time it took me to go shopping for all of the stuff I had? And what if I look at it when I'm done and I'm like, it's not even worth that much. Or I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite thing ever, I want to charge $1,000 for it, but only took $200 to make or something. So I'm like,
and those are all reasonable ways of looking at it.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like real estate. It's whatever people are willing to pay as well.
And I prefer, honestly, to sell prints, because then I still have the original. If somehow I do meet a millionaire who would love to buy my art for $300, because that's what it costs me to make it, in time and effort and materials. But then I can still sell it as a painting, just as a print, for $12 here, $12 there, $10 on a mug or something. So I'm I still get some profit from it, but I still have it, and I'm not worried about oh my gosh, where's my painting?
Well, and then you need to put together a bundle. It's like a print of the painting for sale, but also you get the autographed mermaid picture, and maybe the marching band with green hair flout mug.
Maybe when I get really famous.
You can have a bunch of them. So,
and all the prints are they considered originals?
I haven't looked that far into it. I think sometimes it depends on where you sell them through. If you do the print yourself, if you do the woodblock print and you're bam, I made this thing, and you can call that an original. Okay. But for me, I sell it through websites like Society6. I'm just bam, I'm just going to sell it through there. They're going to deal with the printing and stuff, because printing is so expensive. So you can cover that cost and get a little bit of the money I would get otherwise, because I have to do half the work and I still get paid a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me about your process from inspiration, having the idea of something that you might want to paint, through the completed process.
Well, I'll see, if I think of something that I'm really passionate about, I will go to my little sketchbooks, or maybe my iPad. I'll sometimes use my iPad to do little thumbnails. And I say I don't do thumbnails because I really often this is not the case. If I get an idea, I'll do this and I'll sketch it out. Maybe I'll do a watercolor version of it, and then if I'm no, this needs to be big, then I'll go buy a big canvas and I'll sketch on it. I once bought one so big I couldn't fit it in my car, and I was like, ah!
That's so funny. So you got like a 3x5 one. It won't even fit in your car.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at it at home, and when you say it's got to be bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want the side of a building.
Exactly. I'm like, sometimes I think I just need to buy like rolls of canvas, and so I can roll them up, and then maybe put like fabric paint or something in them, so it stays when I wrinkle it and stuff. But
you're gonna need a bigger house.
yeah. But most of the time, I don't start with inspiration. I start with, I feel like I need to paint today. And then I'll be like, what's my hand want to paint? Because if I go with like, well, I'm going to work on this, but I don't want to, it's not going to turn out well. So I'm like, if I can't think of anything to paint and I'm sitting there like, I can't think of a single thing, my hand doesn't want to do anything, I leave all the thinking up to her. She's not very smart, but she tries. But I'm like, what? Should I draw a person? Oh, that feels nice. Yeah, I'll continue drawing a person. Or like, oh, should I draw a mountain? No, that doesn't feel nice. I don't want to do that. Like, if I can't think of anything, then I'll just like be like, okay, I'm just gonna work on making my skills better, and I'll do like something that I absolutely hate, but at least I tried. But it'll just be in my sketchbook. I'm not gonna put it on a canvas if I'm not sure that I'll like it. Because then at least I'm improving my skills, even if I'm not, putting something out there. So, and then usually I'll go to, okay, here's the sketch on the canvas. Okay, here's the outline in Sharpie so that I can see it a little better and it's a little smoother. And then here's the paint, first paint layer, second paint layer. Here's the black outline if I'm doing a black outline, or here's the details, and here's the shiny bits, and here's the darker bits and the shading and everything. And then I'll look at it again and be like, is it done? Probably not, but,
So I get that when it's like totally up to you what you want to do, but what happens then if someone commissions you? They say, I want a picture of my cat with Pikes Peak in the background.
Well, see, then there's money on the line. And
yeah.
then...
Oh, that changes everything a little bit.
I've done a couple commissions. There was actually an electrician that came to my house once, and he saw paintings that I did when I was 14. He said, I was like, oh my gosh, somebody in this house is an artist. And he's like, or my mom came up to me, she's like, Julia, somebody saw your art and he wants to commission you. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what art is at our house? And he's like, oh, yeah, here it is. And I was like, I made that when I was 14. It's not even good. Then it was just like on the little canvas like this. But he commissioned me to do a painting of like this big of a mountain scene in the Dolomites Mountains in Italy. I don't know if that's how you pronounce them, but...
That's pretty close.
Yeah.
But I can't pronounce it either.
Yeah, there you go. But I painted that, and I actually really enjoyed it, because, like, I hate drawing landscapes, so I'll start there. But, like, when there's money on the line, and I'm like, I want to get this vision out there, this guy's vision, and he can't do it, so I'm going to do it. And so I just started drawing, and I was like, okay, I'm actually enjoying this, because it's forcing me to, like, tap into these skills that I know I have, I just don't like to use, and just, like, practice. And then I started painting on the canvas, and I'm like, there's so many things I can do with this that I can't do on my normal paintings, because they don't look like this. So I sort of started to have fun, and it was like a work schedule. I was like, this day, from this time to this time, I'm going to work on it, because it's not my vision that I'm trying to perfect. It's somebody else's vision. So I'd send them pictures and be like, do you think this could use this? Or do you like it this way? And some people are like, no, I don't want people to see my art. I'm like, if they're paying me for it, I'm going to show them every step along the way. It's like, do you like this? Do you like this? Do you like this? So they don't get it at the end and go like, I hate it.
Yeah, I've always thought, that's one advantage. If you're writing a novel, at least you can rewrite something a little easier than if you're laying down a lot of paint. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have Julia answer the following question. How do you incorporate technology into your art making? back, and we're here with Julia Hilleary, who's going to answer the following question about technology and how do you incorporate technology, however you define technology, into your art making?
Well, there's a lot of different ways. For one, when I'm looking for like motivation, or when I'm looking for something to inspire me, or just something to like warm up with, I'll go online, obviously, because the internet's there. I'm going to use it. And I'll just be like, how am I feeling today? I don't know, model, pose, I want to draw a person, or like a landscape just to warm up or something. So I'll use that to just get started. And then if I need, like background music, obviously I'll use my little Spotify and I'll just listen to some music. I love to listen to music while I'm working. And then if I want to do a warm-up, but I don't want to like get out the colored pencils or the watercolors or anything, I'll use my iPad to do a warm-up on there. Although I will say, like, love my iPad, love that I have like an iPad Pro and I can use the Apple Pencil and everything. And I use Procreate, which is really great, but there is something that is lost when you use like a tablet, when you draw on a tablet. Versus like actually making it with your hands. Because it's like, yeah, it looks really cool, but I sort of understand why people are like, oh, you made that with a computer, that's cool. And it's like, yeah, it does take a lot of skill. It takes the exact same amount of skill, but for some reason it just doesn't feel as like, I don't know, like personal or as like real when it's on a computer screen. Which is why I have like one of those tablets that you like look at the computer and then you can't see it on the tablet, and it works really well. It just drives me crazy because I'm like, I like to be able to like go in really close. But there are days where I'm like, I just don't want to get any of my art materials out. I'm going to use my iPad and draw on there. But then I get so used to using the iPad and like zooming in, let me color this, zoom out, let me color this. And then I'll start doing that on paper. I'll be like, okay, let me zoom. It doesn't work on paper. Just smudged all that graphite everywhere now.
I never would have known that or suspected that it really kind of messes with your technique a little bit. Yeah,
it's like, it doesn't even feel that different. The only difference is like you can't feel the scratching, but for some reason it just doesn't feel as fulfilling because it's like, I made this in an hour. It's cool. And like if I wanted to do a graphic novel, I would definitely do it on my iPad because it's so much easier than having to like measure it out and do like these little panels and then like edit them onto the computer later. Because everybody wants you to put real words in there, not your own writing. Like it's not real words, but
well, we were gonna talk about graphic novels a little bit later, but we're gonna wrap up for tonight. And so tell people how they can contact you. Say someone wanted to have you commission them a painting or do some other kind of artwork. How would they contact you? How do you prefer to be contacted? Tell us the information and we'll put it on the screen.
Well, I prefer to be contacted by email because my phone is personal and I only answer my friends through there. But that email is going to be JMORTSART, so JMortsArt, because my maiden name is Mortensen. So jmortsart@gmail.com. And you can also go to my website, which is juliamortensen.com. Got that domain, that's mine.
All right, very good. And as many professional women, you've recently married, and your last name now is Hillary. But when you put up some of your portfolio stuff, you had under your maiden name.
I did, and I'm keeping my maiden name for just the art stuff because it is so hard to change stuff.
It is.
Yeah. I'm like, I've been making art since before I was married, so I'm like, I don't want to be like, this is a different artist. You haven't heard of her before. No, it's like, it's still me.
You weren't married at 2?
No, I wasn't married at 2, unfortunately. If I had known him, he was like 5, though, it would have been kind of creepy.
Maybe.
There's an age difference there.
Well, very good. Well, then we're just going to wrap up for tonight, and we will continue again next week.
This has been The Third Chair. Join us next week when Julia Hilleary returns, and we will also talk to her husband, Ty Hilleary. Want to be a guest? Want to sponsor our show? Send us an email. Please subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media.